Draconomicon.
Exactly. And we're back. All right.
All right.
So, the Draconomicon. The Book of Dragons. This book is probably of everything I've seen, well, definitely of everything we've encountered, but in general, probably of most of the 3.5 line, the one that holds up the most.
They made something akin to like an anthropology book,
Yeah.
but for a fictional species in their own game world.
Yes. And quite frankly, is just awesome.
And yeah, and it holds up great.
Yeah.
Like you could grab these rules and throw them into. You could grab the fluff in here and basically throw it into any game that has dragons, and it'd live perfectly fine.
Yeah. And more than that, getting into the book proper. It has art like this. I'm just plain a fan. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It is a case of them definitely knowing, hey, dragons is in the name of our game. Maybe we should go all out with this book.
Yeah. And they went over the top with this one. I actually just plain enjoyed this book. So yeah, the first section, all about dragons. This is where we actually get straight up into the anatomy of a dragon. Why do you need to know the anatomy of a dragon as a player? You don't really. I guess you could do an occasional roleplay thing. Why do you need to know the anatomy of a dragon as a DM? You don't really. Is this section useful for role-playing games? No. Is this section fucking awesome? Yes, and more books should do stuff like this.
I would argue that yes, this book is useful for the role-playing section.
Yeah, this book is actually specifically useful for the role-playing section if you want to get nitty-gritty into dragons.
That's one of the reasons this book is timeless, is because you don't need to worry about numbers or additions or stuff. You can just take this. Like, you could, theoretically, with a little bit of, wrenching on rules for monsters, use this in a 5.0 or a D&D 2024.
Yeah, like this is where they go over, like, D&D dragons move more like cats.
Yeah.
Like, think of a house cat with wings and scaled up to absurd size, and that's how dragons act and move.
Yeah. Moving on to some minor fluff things here, or not so much fluff, but age categories, actually putting numbers on the age categories, which is helpful for getting a general idea. And if for some reason somebody wanted to run a dragon in the party, or if you have a dragon NPC, you could figure out exactly when they should be aging up.
Yeah.
And also going over like Twilight. Basically, dragons, once they start getting really on in years, can actually die. It depends on the dragon for how long it starts to get into Twilight, and there are ways of avoiding it. Which we'll go over later, but because they are actually covered in other sections more. Then other things to scare the shit out of your players.
Yeah, do you want to put armor and equipment on
dragons? Hey, you know how their dragon has a shit ton of money in his hoard? I might have invested some of it into, magic items.
Here's all the items that a dragon can wear.
Yep. Because, the dragon isn't already fucking ridiculous undercon.
I have turned every 5-foot square in my lair into a different teleportation square to a separate 3-story trap-filled mansion.
Now, I will say there's one horrific thing left out of this book, and that does not talk about dragons and their desire for card pornography etched onto gold plates.
Of course not. We didn't make that up yet.
Fucking automobile file.
So yeah.
We don't kink shame.
But yeah, basically.
We like kink shame a little.
We tend to kink shame. In any case, Dragon Society. Yep, dragons have a society.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They live in a society.
Very, very loosely as dragons. Almost none of the dragons actually like hanging around with each other with the same type of dragon or others.
Yeah, it's easy to reconcile that when you remember that dragons at their heart are like the same kind of people as tech bros.
Ew.
I want to
hoard an infinite amount of wealth, and I have opinions about the common folk.
No, they don't have opinions about the common folk, other than if it's an evil dragon, how tasty they are.
No, it's not that they don't. I mean, depending on the dragon, the common folk are entirely
depends a lot on the dragon. But yeah, mating, it's very dependent on the type of dragon. Conflict and interaction between dragons. Good and evil dragons don't like each other. Evil dragons barely tolerate each other.
Evil dragons also don't like each other.
And why do dragons hoard treasure? Because it's shiny.
Fair.
I mean, treasure is the greatest treasure. That's why it's called
I
treasure.
call it treasure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basic draconic vocabulary, because more books need this. I'm to be quite frank, just because this amuses me.
Like, it's cute to have like words in dragon.
Yeah.
Like, if you have an established like fantasy language in your world, like obviously it's not a whole lexicon for dragon, but
No.
it'd be fun. Like, I can say certain words draconic.
Yeah. You can also just write it somewhere, and if somebody doesn't know dragon, they could just go like, this says Kagero, Kagero here on this door. Huh. And the Draconic Pantheon, which, if I'm going to be completely honest, it might as well consist of Bahamut, Tiamat, and Io.
Yep.
But there are other gods, technically.
It's important to note that they added Io as a member of the Draconic Pantheon,
Yes.
despite being basically the god of gods.
God of gods, specifically in Faerun, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's technically the creator of all dragon kind.
Yep.
Alright, so on to the actual specific dragons. We only did some light notes, so I did some much heavier notes for these ones. Black dragons. Evil-tempered, ferocious, prefer swamps or bogs, but will live anywhere that has water and dense vegetation. Attack and kill anything that stumbles across them. Lairs are in large, damp caves or submerged caverns. They eat aquatic things, like to dwell underwater, and ambush things, and they are probably one of the most straightforward, honestly, of the... Probably the second most straightforward evil dragon.
I like that, like in the first paragraph there, they have no natural enemies. Do any dragons?
Yes, other dragons. That's about it.
Based on that description of where they live, black mold.
Yeah, pretty much. They have the advantage of their preferred habitat is not really the preferred habitat of any other dragon, and they only really border on green dragons.
They could bump into greens.
Yeah, which the greens don't care as long as black dragons stay to where they are, basically.
Yeah, greens are pretty much supposed to go with a "we're better than you, leave us the hell, leave the fuck alone."
Yeah. All right, blues. Vain and territorial, they prefer hot areas like deserts, dry steppes, hot badlands. Come into conflict with several things, including brass dragons. They're burrowers. They prefer vast underground lairs at the base of cliffs, which they usually let get covered in sand. Good way of concealing your lair, basically. They have a sense of order, see themselves at the top. They're dedicated carnivores that prefer to hunt herd animals. If a dragon is actually working together with an organization of non-dragons, this is one of the more likely candidates, quite frankly. For evil organizations, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Brass dragons. Gregarious, conversational, and humble for a dragon. That is a big asterisk. They love the company of others who aren't brass dragons. Prefer sunlight, dry heat like deserts. Come into conflict with more or powerful blue dragons. Usually they're faster than them are, so they usually just outrun them through the air or burrowing. Make their lairs in high rocky caves facing east so that they can see the rising sun. They eat anything but tend to consume very little, usually sustain themselves off of morning dew because it's a dragon, don't think about it.
They don't need to eat.
No. Maintains large networks of allies for information and communication. Yeah.
Incredibly sociable.
Yeah.
Because they feel they have to be.
Bronze dragons. I'm going to pause for a second and also say that the fucking shit page layout of this edition has continues to annoy the crap out of me in this book, and it's even worse in this section. So if you see funky things, that's kind of why. But yeah, I basically have been trying to get the sketch and the wingspan on the same page for that type of dragon.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah, Bronze. Curious with a strong sense of justice, likes to appear to be small and friendly animals, lives in temporal coastal areas and islands, often fights evil sea creatures, pirates, and other things like that as well. Theirs are caves whose entrance is underwater, but the entrance itself is underwater, but the rest of the cave is always dry. Spends most of its time in its alternate form, allowing it to observe without attracting the attention of Dragonwood. They tend to associate with each other, but will also associate with other races, often adapting humanoid forms when interacting. Find warfare fascinating, will actually join in just campaigns. Will also test others' sense of decency by posing as the destitute or downtrodden. The person who wrote this was more inspired by Bronze Dragons than others so far. There's just more written on more details written into Bronze Dragons. It's actually.
Well, I think
I wrote that note as I was
general-
going. So I wrote notes as I was going along for this book. I will note that the sections just get bigger from here too.
Like in general, I feel the good dragons get more stuff like this written down for them because the party is more likely to interact with good dragons in a means that isn't stab it to death before it murders us.
Yes. There is a decent amount written for the more complex chromatics as well, and we'll get to them in a second.
I mean, the
because
red's gonna have its section.
Yeah. Because this isn't in alphabetical order, by the way, we hit like 4 of the chromatic dragons in a row.
Yeah.
Right, copper dragons. Ignore the gold for a second. Pranksters, joke tellers, and riddlers likes dry, rocky uplands and mountains overlapping with brass dragons as well as silver, red, and blues. Silvers avoid them for obvious reasons. And red or blue will try to kill copper dragons who usually find their goal to prank and annoy the assholes. Makes their lairs on narrow caves, using their power to shape stone to enhance their lairs and conceal entrances. Lairs themselves are often mazes because, of course, they are, and usually with open tops so they can just fly over the maze. Often cramped for a dragon lair as they can climb with ease, so if there isn't really space to like spread wings and fly, they don't care. They can just crawl in the ceiling. Often seeks out others as comedy needs an audience, making them naturally social creatures. They also tend to avoid other copper dragons when not mating, mostly just to avoid stupid competitions. I tend to compete to figure out who is the funniest dragon.
The knock-knock joke competition that wiped out a village.
They eat almost anything, including male ores, but they prefer monstrous scorpions and other poisonous creatures.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I would guess like the poison to them is equivalent to like eating a pepper for us.
Almost certainly.
They like the spice.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely have the con save for it.
Mm-hmm.
They may probably be immune to I'm pretty sure they're immune to poison, actually. Yeah, all the stuff for dragons are in a completely different book.
I'd say dragons aren't inherently poison.
Dragons aren't inherently immune to poison, but I would not be surprised if coppers were. I also know that immune to acid, actually. That would not give them immune to poison, but they are immune to acid.
Either way, they're probably making the saves.
Yeah. Alright, gold dragons. Belligerents that like intrigue and politics, live in forests, preferring... Oh, wait, sorry. I went one paragraph too far. Foes of evil who crusade for and promote good, lives in secluded areas like the bottoms of lakes, high plateaus, and deep gorges. Its lair is always made of stone with several chambers and beautiful decorations, usually with royal guards, either animals or good giants. Which is a giant fucking contrast. There was a bear nearby, and here's a cloud giant. Spends most of its time in its alternate form, usually an unassuming human or common domestic or non-threatening animal. Notably, one of the disguises for Bahamut himself is the Master of Flowers. He's surrounded by a bunch of canaries, which are themselves gold dragons in disguise. It lets it travel.
Good luck stumbling across that.
Yeah, basically stuff that lets it travel and observe the world. They like to act as bait for evil creatures, killers, and robbers in dangerous areas because, okay, that is just kind of funny.
Yeah.
You went to kick the puppy. The puppy turned into a adult gold
Gold
dragon. Well, fuck.
You are now dead.
Lexus
Don't
say.
kick.
Oh, go ahead.
I said, don't kick puppies.
Yes. Likes to stay informed of the world and is a good listener. They have a world spanning hierarchy hierarchy with a single leader or elected from the ranks of the Great Worms that serves for life or until resignation, whose title is Your Resplendence. When a vacancy occurs, if there are 2 or more candidates of equal merit, they will get together and work out a power sharing arrangement of some sort. Largely, by the way, they don't do much. Basically, the James Madison quote, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. So this is mostly just an advisory role anyways.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a race of basically or you're dealing with the most exalted good of the dragons. There isn't really much governance they actually need, but they have the structure for form's sake.
Yep.
Okay, now back to that paragraph I was reading. Great dragons blared today. That, like intrigue and politics, they live in forests, preferring old growth and tall trees. They are just as territorial as other evil dragons, but prefer to use schemes to gain power and wealth. They prefer to put their lairs in sheer cliffs or hillsides with hidden entrances, like behind a waterfall with some submerged entrance or some magically grown plants if they're old enough to be able to do that. Conflict sometimes with black dragons, usually letting them have the choice of lair only so they can rob it later, because they're assholes. Black dragon. They stay on patrol in their territory often, usually also looking for prey like small trees and shrubs, but preferring elves and sprites. I'm not kidding, the book does say they specifically eat small trees and shrubs.
Yeah, I mean, dragons can eat anything.
Yeah. Likes to gain power and treasure and will use any means, preferring intimidation, but not above subtle means, being good liars and deceivers. Are actually smooth talkers when not conversing with other gold dragons, which they're just plain rude to. Ironically silver tongue towards anyone who isn't your own species. Let's see. Will often attack with little or no provocation, prefers to stalk its prey and observe, terrorizing the weaker for its own amusement. Rarely actually kills its victim immediately, preferring to interrogate or ransom them.
This is a delicious.
The iconic dragon.
Yep.
Red dragons are greedy. Greedy dragons are all about the horde. But by even the standards of dragons, they are vain, proud, and arrogant. They love mountains and other high perches where they can surveil their domain from, bringing them into conflict with silver dragons who often beat them in combat, and occasionally copper dragons who prove less of a direct problem, though they may find themselves with several dragon-sized cream pies to the face. They
Where
seek
do you
out...
get that much cream?
Magic.
Listen, copper dragons are really dedicated to their craft. They seek out large caves that descend deep into the earth as layers, prizing volcanic and geometric activity, but always keeping a high perch to watch from. They are so ferocious, vengeful, and avaricious that scholars and red dragons consider them the archetypical evil dragon, seeing themselves as the ideal of dragon kind and the rest of the species as being perverse deviants. And other red dragons.
Look, the other evil dragons just aren't doing it right.
The younger ones find life difficult as they stand out like a sore thumb, and their species has a well-earned reputation.
I'm sorry, I know about some of the other books for this edition. Can we not call anything perverse deviants?
No.
All right, fair enough.
Yep. The other ones, however, bask in their satire as being the big bad dragon. Red dragons no. Red dragons value their hoard even more than other dragons love to collect as much treasure as possible. Every other dragon has like a preferred bauble or treasure of one sort or another. Red dragons do not. They actually just prefer anything they can get their goddamn hands on. They obsess over their hoards to a degree they know every piece and will know if anything has been stolen, causing them to become even angrier than normal and basically going on a complete fucking rampage.
What is this work by Leprechaun rules?
Hey, spice coloration.
The movie,
Smog
not
was absolutely a red dragon.
Yes.
To be fair, I would watch the very short movie Red Dragons in the Hood.
I don't think I have to. I don't think I have to do much investigation to absolutely confirm that red dragons are straight up based on Smaug. They are almost certainly that. Well,
Like I
there's
said, despite the coloration of Smaug in the book and movie, his scales were black. He absolutely is the Red Dragon.
yeah. While they're solitary and will attack anything they see as an intruder on sight, they do want to know the events of the wider world, and we use lesser creatures as informants, messengers, and spies. The pay sucks, and the life insurance has a big exception for from being eaten by your boss, however, so, not the best of jobs.
Sorry. One thing. I looked it up because I thought I remembered this, and I was remembering correct. In the original illustration of Smaug by J.R.R. Tolkien, he's a red dragon.
Oh.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I could have sworn the book specifically calls his scales out as being black.
Yeah.
I seem to recall he did something to his scales to make them harder, but his original scales were red.
Well, okay then.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So information-wise, they are mostly interested in other red dragons, wanting to either be better than them or kill them and take their stuff. Seriously, they're the murder hobos of dragons.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're confident in a fight and will spend years formulating plans of attack, but aren't above retreating from a superior foe. Liking to fight on ground where they are more agile, they won't always slay foes in battle, allowing survivors to expand their reputation or gain something else out of it, like information or service. And yeah, they're go so far and so over the top that it actually kind of wraps around actually being amusing. There's a good reason why red dragons tend to get the most attention. Not the least of which is they are very much the iconic image.
Yeah.
But they are very easily usable as like enemies in a campaign in various ways. They are also, ironically, probably the least likely to worship Tiamat, the god of the evil of the chromatic dragons.
Of course, I would be acknowledging there's something superior to them.
Exactly. Silver dragons. Loves the company of humanoids, taking on forms of old men or fair damsels. Will cheerfully assist good creatures in need, but will not interfere otherwise unless inaction would cause something bad to happen. They hate injustice and cruelty, but prefer to be protectors and healers, in contrast to the bronze and gold dragons. Can be found anywhere, but love high mountains and vast skies, flying for hours just for the joy of it. Often come into conflict with reds, partially because they lair in the same place, but mostly because they see them as violent, arrogant assholes, and they often win the encounters because they're more than willing to find and accept help from everyone and anyone, which is an advantage that red dragons do not share.
That's just showing how weak the silvers are. They need help. Well, throw down like a real dragon.
And the silvers continue to not care about the red dragon's opinions of them. Their lairs themselves are secluded mountain peaks or literally actual clouds. They often dwell, however, in towns and dungeons, usually hanging out in places where they can transform. They spend a great deal of their time as humanoids, hanging out with humans and elves, partially because they see it as more practical than being a giant lizard thing, but mostly try to avoid the draconic sense of time and not let opportunity pass them by. Their love. Basically, dragons do have a tendency, because of their very long lifespans, to just kind of let the days go by. And
I mean, that's fair.
yeah, but but at the same time, that can mean lost opportunity. You lose things. Okay. Just as pure reference, just go watch Free Run. I
was gonna say,
to get this idea.
You beat me to it.
Yep.
If you want an idea, Gacha does a good job of covering what it's like to have a different view of time.
Yeah. They are very much the lawful good libertarian dragons. They dislike hierarchies and authority, despite their alignment, emphasizing a good part of the good part of their alignment more, and seeing actions that cause no harm as basically none of their business. They tend to deal with evil as it comes, protecting the innocent, but will go after a constant source of it. If there's land tainted with negative energy that is constantly causing undead to rise, they'll probably just go and deal with that. and not just keep whacking the undead. Have loose family units or clans that spread out over large areas like continents and go without seeing each other for decades. Mates are always sought from outside the clan. They often develop relationships with non-dragons and their descendants, revealing their true nature to their trusted companions. They're dedicated omnivores, preferring human fare and loving new dishes. They prefer portable. As far as treasure, they prefer portable treasure and can keep themselves that they can keep them with themselves while they're in human form. That shows craftsmanship of some sort. Like a crafted necklace is something they'll value pretty well.
Or a gold plate that artistically depicts dragons fucking cards.
Yeah. In a strange way, you could kind of call them the most human of dragons. Mostly because they quite literally do that a lot. And
they spend a lot of time as humans.
Yeah. And they're the good dragons you're most likely to encounter in a campaign. Or one of, at least. You're likely to encounter all of them quite simply because they are shape changers, and a lot of them will transform into things to observe. But if you're actually like in a town, these are one of the more likely ones you're going to run into. And finally, we have white dragons. The least intelligent and most animalistic. They prefer frigid climates like the Arctic, but also high mountains, and especially in winter. Sometimes overlap with red dragon's territory, but they aren't stupid enough to challenge them, as the Reds see them as unworthy of their attention. Yeah, power scaling wise, whites are the weakest of all dragons, and reds are tied with silvers as the second most powerful, with gold being the most powerful of dragons. As equivalents of age category, obviously.
Yeah.
Lairs are usually icy caves, deep submarine chambers away from the sun. They only eat frozen food, devouring things that they killed with their breath weapons, and burying things that they didn't in snowbanks for later until they're frozen enough. They spurn dragon society and only like other whites of the opposite sex, often made for the fun of it. While not the most intelligent of sapient creatures, the older ones are at least as smart as humans, and they are cunning predators who know how to ambush near their lairs and focus on single targets. This is easily the most, hey, I just need to throw a dragon at the party. Dragon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not really that much complex to them, but that's fine.
They're the closest thing to the bestial version of a dragon people.
Yep. Alright. Dragons and campaigns. Just general advice of using dragons as monsters, plotters, schemers, movers and shakers, etc., etc. Generally good. Generally not bad advice to give in general, but yeah. Just how are you going to use dragons in a campaign? They are very much centerpieces regardless.
Yep.
Running a dragon counter, mechanics of melee, fighting on the wing. This is more getting into the nuts and bolts of 3.5 and how dragons can fight. Not how you might want to actually run a dragon encounter per se, but how they can fight.
These are options. We do not recommend them.
Also, illustrated dragon flight, which more matters because the flight in this edition is wonky, overcomplicated nonsense, as I think we've gone over already in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yep.
Dragon feats. Pretty much what it says on the tin. These are feats that are more or less built for dragons, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean they are exclusive to them.
Dragons get a feat every 3 hit dice, just like everything else does.
Yep. Usually you're taking subpar, or usually the default ones are usually subpar filler feats, thankfully. But if the DM really wants to power a dragon, stop that. Nonetheless, a lot of this stuff is fairly amusing. Let's see.
So,
go ahead.
Sorry, didn't know if you were done with the section or not.
Oh, no.
I had a thing to bring up in regards to dragons, and specifically Tiamat and stuff, and it kind of pertains to the section of using dragons.
Yeah.
But okay, so again, working off of media associated with Dungeons and Dragons, there was an old school cartoon back when the AD&D rules were about, but it still applies to what we're learning in the book here. Called the Dungeons. It's referred to as the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, but it was just named Dungeons and Dragons. And in the cartoon, to summarize in one sentence, a bunch of kids get dragged into the D&D world and have to try and find their way home while being menaced by a wizard named Venger. Now, the important part, the thing that's relevant to this book, is that Venger only has one critical weakness in that Tiamat fucking hates his ass. and so a lot of times Tiamat will be around, or they'll do something to get the attention of Tiamat, which won't, like, Tiamat's not their friend or anything. Tiamat is still Tiamat, the five-headed, super destructive dragon god.
Yeah.
But it is an example of how to use a dragon effectively. And there was even like a 3.5 module that they put out for one of the anniversaries of the cartoon when they re-released the box set. That was this. There was an adventure in 3.5 D&D of like one episode or a hypothetical episode of the cartoon, and they even say like Tiamat is not supposed to be a character. Tiamat's supposed to be a thing that happens in the story that scares Venger off as a way to fight a much higher level player, and then your players run away while Venger is fighting. So you can use dragons, but they're meant to be more as like kind of, a set piece.
They're a force of nature.
Effectively, yeah.
They're a master of stealth.
They are also a master of stealth. This is nonsense from later. By the way, we haven't really gone over, or another rule we haven't gone over because size actually determines a lot more in this edition than just how big you are. There's size bonuses and penalties to stealth checks.
Yep.
I believe
But you get when you have a lot of hit dice. You get a lot of skill points.
You do get a lot of skill points, though they are limited by your hit dice and what you can put in. But more importantly, there was also a feat that let you ignore the penalty to stealth from size.
Let you ignore the size penalty.
Which begs the question of how the fuck is this thing hiding? When it is the size of a really 3-story house. Yeah. Especially with throw classes,
and if you succeeded at your perception check to spot him, were you going to say anything?
There is that.
you spot him, and the DM just puts a finger to his lips. And he's like, "Okay, dragon, whatever you say."
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, going back to this page. Feats of note: large and in charge. While technically, technically in this book, is one of the more usable ones. Basically, you have to be large in order to do this, but whenever somebody provokes an attack of opportunity, if you hit them and they fail a save, they get pushed back 5 feet, and then their movement ends. So basically, you can stop people from charging in and hitting you. If the caveat here is you actually have to have reach, or more reach than they do at least. If you're large, you automatically have reach because that is a rule attached to the edition as well. This item finds use outside of dragons. For some builds, especially if you're meant to basically be a tank, because you can cover a large area with that, and if you have enough attacks of opportunity, just keep things from doing anything. Let's see. The Metamorph feats. These are truly interesting ideas, and don't put these on your NPC dragons, please. Unless you want to, wipe the party out.
Look, you don't want your dragon to full attack and do a quickened breath?
No. Yeah. So how all of them work is they modify breaths in pretty much the same way that meta magic works. Their cost, because obviously you're not casting spells, is just it takes longer for the breath weapon to recharge. In the rocket tag that tends to end up being D&D, especially at higher levels, the breath weapon's only ever getting used once per combat usually anyways. So unless the dragon is flying around and breathing on the party and doing nothing else.
I could be flying around doing wing attack or flyover attack.
Can do flyover attacks as well.
Flyby attack is right there.
Yep.
There are some epic feats. You can ignore those.
Yep.
There are a handful of monstrous feats, which are feats intended for monsters.
They are feats intended for monsters. However, as the edition goes on, some of them work on non-monsters.
A lot of these do have things that players just won't have. Like multi-attack, you gotta be a race that has multi or natural weapons.
Yeah.
Lizard folk actually have 2 claws and a bite. They can.
Yeah, they can take multi-attack and improve multi-attack, and it's generally worth it for them because natural attacks, you can always do the secondary natural attacks in addition to all of your weapon swings, so it's just more attacks. And that just
Provided
makes
you're
it
not
much more
using,
likely to hit.
the hands. You
Yeah.
can't use a claw attack on the weapon.
You can't use a claw
But-
attack in a hand with a weapon, but yeah.
Yeah, but, if you have an open hand and a bite, you could do a claw and a bite in addition to attacking with a one-handed.
Yeah.
You could technically use armor spikes as your primary weapon, then do attacks with both claws and a bite.
You're going to see us refer to armor spikes a lot when we do random silly nonsense with full round attack gain.
Yep.
It's just a good way of keeping your hands free. And or attacking when you transform into a bear.
And or attacking you transform into the armor spike's like a D3 damage. They don't do a ton of damage, but the dice isn't a ton of damage. But realistically, at a certain point, you're significantly more worried about flat than.
Especially when you're transforming into a bear and gain a plus 20 strength bonus, also your flat damage is
Yeah.
blowing your dice out of the water.
The plus 10 damage you get out of that alone is worth. Oh no!
Yeah.
My main attacks are only D3 as opposed to, a
D8.
D10.
Yeah.
I'll just have to do them and these 2 claws and a bite.
Dragon spells. This is what it says on the tin. These are spells that are based around dragons casting them, including meta breath spells, where breath is a component to these spells.
Yep.
So as an example, here's animate breath, where breath is a component, and it just turns the breath weapon into a construct. This is the funniest goddamn thing. It's not good per se, it's just funny.
They just breathe out breath elementals, basically. It's good shit.
Yeah. Other things here, though. Let's see.
You want your breath weapon to also do negative levels?
Yep.
Let's see. Draconic polymorph. As polymorph, except the assumed form gonna have no more hit dice. Then you have maximum 20. Strength con or above average for race species. Yep. There's enervating breath, which is a more normal breath feat, or ethereal breath there. Where it is just modify your breath weapon, lace with native energy. So yeah, in addition, normal breath does other things.
Additional breath does 2d4 negative.
Yeah.
You'll note there's no save on. But
No,
I use the breath save.
It uses the breath save.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we explicitly stated this, but high level chromatic and metallic dragons just straight up gain caster levels as sorcerer.
Yep.
Which is why all these spells partially.
Also, sometimes using access to the cleric list as well.
Yeah.
Depending on the dragon. Still knowing spells and casting as a sorcerer.
Yep.
But doing it better.
Yep.
You'll also note that he has a charisma caster, and some of these dragons have enormous charisma stats.
Let's see. This Great Worm Copper has 22, which I'm only referring to because it's on the page over here. Great Worm Gold has 32. Yeah. That is before they actually spend part of their hoard on
that's before they buy magic items.
Yep.
You're working with a base that's a magnitude higher than players are.
Yep.
With effective access to the exact same things to boost.
Okay, dragon magic items, which is here just so I can say that they're dragon magic items. They're not really anything impressive other than how fucking terrifying dragon-built specific magic items are.
Did that dragon really need to give itself a chrome jaw? No, but it did.
Dragon armor invincibility. Here's +5 half plate. You could have stopped there. The dragon is already unfucking hittable.
But it also covers with spikes and blades to give it a +5 enhancement bonus to its natural attacks.
Sure. Lair wards. Unique wondrous items for dragons. Well, wondrous items that are uniquely dragon tailored. Pretty much what you think they are. They're protection for their lairs.
All sorts of various effects.
Yep. All right, dragon prestige classes. Why?
Yeah, because dragons are just able to take class levels as you are.
They are. God, the prerequisites on these classes are basically like, are we? you have to be epic. You have to be fighting like epic level dragons at this point. I know, God, the actual epic level dragons get scary, but that's a different matter entirely. Not a different book and not purview of this one. But in any case, Bloodscale Fury. What if barbarian, but dragon?
Dragon, but rage.
The Barbarian.
Yep.
Hey,
Disciple of
Ashur
Ashur-Dalon. Yep. Turns into a fiendish thing, and my notes here say, let Shiv explain Ashur-Dalon.
Okay, so Ashur-Dalon, who also comes in a later book, is originally from...
Actually, it's 3.0.
Is
He will also come up in a later book, but that's
He'll come up
also
in a later
post-death.
book,
but
so he is from a pre-made adventure.
Yeah.
Called the Well of Lost Souls?
I think
or
it was
Well of
Bastion
of
of-
Unborn Souls. Or Bastion of
Bastion
Unborn
of Broken
Souls.
Souls, I think, was the adventure name.
Basically, this red dragon on the positive energy plane found where souls basically go, or where souls basically come from, effectively.
Yeah, the module is Bastion of Broken Souls. It's a 3rd edition module.
Yeah, okay, it's the 3rd edition. But Bastion of Broken Souls, basically, this red dragon, Ashur-Dalon, found the font where all souls come from, and is chilling there, eating them
Yum yum
to
yum.
make himself more powerful.
I was about to make the tub of babies joke, and I was gonna, that's probably in poor take. No, all right, they're going there. Got it.
Yeah. As part of what eventually happens, you defeat Ashur-Dalon as part of this. Assuming you succeed at the module, you defeat Ashur-Dalon, and because he basically died in kind of the space between worlds where the Bastion of Unborn Souls was, he does and doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
He exists in the place between everything.
Yeah. So he comes up in a much later book, I believe. He comes up in Dragon Magic as a vestige for the Bonder class, which is in a different book entirely. But the idea of a vestige is something that basically slips through the cracks of reality and kind of spreads all over the place. Bonders can kind of channel. It is notable in the text for Ashur-Dalon's vestige entry. He is described as being exceptionally greedy, even for a red dragon.
I mean, to be fair, he did find the font where all souls come from, just chilled there eating it for a bit. So yeah, he's a greedy motherfucker.
Yeah.
This like that module, again, that's like located in the positive energy plane. So there is like a whole segment where you basically have to go, like, as we talked about when we briefly covered the planes, you'll die just being on the positive energy plane from overhealing. So I briefly mentioned there's a ring that does constant damage to you. That's from that module, designed to deal a point of damage to you every single round, so you never overheal and die from being on the plane too long.
Granted, you can pretty much take it off once you get into combat with Ashur-Dalon, because I'm pretty sure you're going to take damage.
You're also no longer in the positive energy plane when you're actually fighting him, because you're in the font.
Okay.
Like Ashur-Dalon, other vestiges are going to be interesting when we get to there. Orcus technically has a vestige.
Not Orcus directly, but yes.
Not Orcus, but Orcus.
Yes.
That'll be an interesting thing when we get to that book.
It will. I will have a lot of write-ups for that one. All right, Dispassionate Watcher of Chronepsis. We didn't really go over in the God section because we're not important, but it's the follower of the Dragon God of Fate, Death, and Judgment. Notably, this prestige class converts all the sorcerer's casting levels into cleric casting levels and gains more magic. Gains more magic and theme flavor abilities, basically, for what it is.
Yeah.
It has to actually be neutral to go into this class, which does limit quite a lot of the dragons. It works better on the gem dragons, which we will actually go over later. They are in Monster Manual 2, which is not in the scope of this project because that's actually a 3.0 book, but they're also in the Expanded Psionics Handbook.
Well, it's also the case to remember that the alignments listed for things like dragons tend to be, not an always.
Yeah.
So like red dragons tend to be chaotic evil. They could be chaotic neutral. They could be neutral evil.
Technically, they're listed as always, and always doesn't mean always.
Correct. A lot of monsters will list always, but
like
always doesn't actually mean correct.
Yeah.
What are you saying? The Drow aren't always evil?
No, they're always chaotic good.
They're always kind of good. We've been over that.
Yeah, the only exception to that is when you start getting into lower and higher plane outsiders, which are usually, if not outright, well, depending on the type, could either be fundamentally made up of the pure stuff of good or evil. Or a petitioner that is so deep in the sauce that they might as well be.
But then you still have instances of like a fallen angel who's no longer good, or a converted, demon.
Yeah.
So it is like a 99.999% thing, but there's always those outlier cases. So always.
Dragon Ascendant. Powerful dragon that eats his entire horde in an attempt to become an immortal quasi-deity.
Yep.
The 12th level, by the way, these are 12 level prestige classes, unlike every other prestige class in the game.
Dragons are better than you and need more levels.
Because reasons. When are you
They're
fighting this?
Superiority.
Yeah, these are very fluff prestige classes if I haven't gone across that already. Let's see. Elemental Master becomes more in tune with its own elemental forces. Summons elements. Pretty much what you would expect from a class like this. Only dragon.
Effectively, eventually begets like element.
Yeah. High Carved Dragon. Monk 3 theme prestige class. Technically possible for player character to get into before epic with proper nonsense, because...
Is it? You need a natural armor bonus of 20.
That's why I said technically. I'm still trying to figure out.
Also, you have to be a dragon.
That's riggable. You know damn well that's riggable.
Okay, but where are you getting the natural armor bonus of 20?
I'm trying to figure that one out.
I'll agree that dragon is riggable, and will say plus 12 is just pick the right class. But
I get that. I can get that in 6 levels.
And NA 20 is basically impossible for a player.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. You could have 60 epic levels, so you could take the +1 natural armor feat 20 times.
Yeah, it's the trying to get into it before epic is one of the harder things to do. I just noted that because it's one of the few that doesn't have like, let's see, base attack bonus 20, base attack bonus 30.
Honestly, base attack bonus 20 is significantly more reachable than NA 20.
Yeah, but by default, you can't do that before you're epic. Or you can't go into the class before you're epic. Let's see.
And Iron Will.
And Iron Will, yeah. Yes, you also technically need Iron Will. This is a feat. Alright, Sacred Warder of Bahamut. I didn't note that, but that one is probably doable before Epic as well. DR5 Magic, I think, is the hardest thing there. That's not even that hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, both Sacred...
What's the requirement for the Endure Blows feat?
Oh, that is a good question. That is probably a feat.
Just go back to the feat table.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's one monster's feat.
Monster's feat.
It requires dragon type and tough.
No, you can easily do that.
Yeah, get dragon type.
All right, but yeah, back to these two, which technically I put them both on this page. It's Sacred Warder of because the art is merged. Sacred Warder of Bahamut and Unholy Ravager of Tiamat. Both of them convert their class levels into cleric levels. They are exactly what they say on the tin. Ironically, the example of Dragon's natural alignments are actually wrong. The Unholy Ravager of Tiamat actually has to be lawful evil or neutral evil. Red dragons are always chaotic evil.
Yep.
Silvers are actually lawful good, so that actually works for that one. But I did find that mildly amusing. Again, they don't actually, even though they're always chaotic evil, they don't actually have to be chaotic evil. But
nope. I mean, no self-respecting dragon would actually align themselves or become that close to Tiamat without having some amount of neutrality or lawfulness to them.
Yeah. Also briefly there is Advanced Dragons. This is just for, you know what, screw it, just add hit dice. Make them bigger. Alright. The player's perspective. Now getting to the other side of the table. Basic advice on fighting a dragon. That this is only as useful as the DM lets it be, to be
Spread
completely
out,
honest.
pants-shitting tear.
Yeah. Alright, feats. Not really. I mean, the feats in this book are exactly what you expect. They're very much for fighting dragons or dragon themed.
Fighting or hugging dragons, depending on what you think.
So of note in here, dragon cohort. If you want a dragon as a cohort, it's basically that part of the leadership feat, but the effective character level for the dragon is lowered by 3 for this one, so it is kind of neat in that respect.
Yeah.
Other thing is sense weakness. Your attacks more easily overcome damage reduction or hardness is a very poor description. What it actually does is just reduce the all opposing damage reduction and hardness by 5. Which is just good. Spell descriptions. Spells are... This is pretty much an example, a good one-page example of this entire section. It's either spells that are more or less specifically rigged for fighting dragons, or spells that are attached to domains that happen to be in this book.
Yeah.
Actual spells of note, contingent energy resist, which is really how they should have actually done contingency as a spell. So instead of making really easy triggers in order to cast whatever the hell you want, stuff that is very much, here's a specific contingent spell of this type, so it is still an interesting trick without being riggable. Energy immunity, which is the spell type, or which is a type of spell that annoys me the most, because here's a standard action for something with a 24-hour duration. You're trading a spell slot for a class feature, basically.
Yep.
And in this case, it's just immunity to energy. Find the Gap I actually found as an interesting martial
It's a
spell
cute little
for
buff.
once. Yeah, it's a cute little buff. Like once per round, you're basically doing a touch attack with your melee attack.
Yeah.
Especially good if you're like a paladin who is based on like charging in and doing like a single big hit. And finally, lower spell resistance, which is the first instance of this for once. Granted, this is a full round cast. The duration is the fight. Now, the fortitude save or negates seems wrong until you read the last line of text where the target takes a penalty to the save equal to your caster level.
Yeah.
They're not passing that save. Even a dragon is hard pressed to pass that save.
Yeah, that's a big bonus.
Yeah. But yeah, there are better ways of destroying spell resistance later for actually getting spells through, but this is like the first instance of it actually appearing. Of anything like that appearing. And it's good if you actually have a party full of casters, because it can just get rid of spell resistance for everyone. The only rub being this is a 1-round cast time, so you do actually have to
Spend your entire round cast.
Yeah. You do have to spend your entire round and not lose concentration.
Yep.
Unless you're using like a meta magic rod or something.
Yeah.
But it's a more interesting dynamic than later. All right, this section inserted here for sake of completeness, but yes, there's dragon hide is a type of armor. Generally, it's basically a way for druids to fake
Get
higher
armor
end
they wouldn't normally have access to. Yeah,
Yeah,
Dragon
good.
Hide and Dragon Scale.
Yeah. Then there's Dragoncraft items, which I mentioned because they exist in this book. Nothing really stands out from them per se, but they exist. Magic items. Also, this magic item section is not really that interesting, but also not that
It is
big.
either stuff for fighting dragons or hugging.
Yeah. And nothing that even stands out by those standards. The only things I actually found much of interest here was here's the Dracolix phylactery for some fucking reason.
Well, you need to know how to make Dracoliches, right?
I guess. And the minor artifact Draco Mysteries, which is mostly here because this fucking looks hilarious.
Who made this book?
I know what you're thinking. Don't.
No, it's not actually an evil book.
No.
No, I was gonna say, I know what you're thinking. You want to put something in there. Don't.
Like a bookmark?
It's a book that
Yeah, I want to put
gives
a bookmark in,
gives
so I
you
know
some
my place.
dragon-like bonuses, and if you're a sorcerer, you just gain a point of charisma and half a level,
Nice.
or halfway into the next level.
Well, yeah, because you have a natural conversation starter in this book with a mouth on it.
I want this on my coffee table.
Only if the mouth is modeled and.
And of course, it's a 3/5 book, so it's prestige classes.
Yep. It has prestige classes that aren't completely silly, stupid dragon prestige classes, more specifically.
Correct.
Okay, the Dracolite. Divine Caster prestige class, gains new domain. It's one of the two listed earlier, basically. It's either Glory, which notably Glory appeared in the Book of His Oddities as well, or Dominion.
Mm.
Basically, depending on what type of caster they are. Though, I didn't go over it earlier, there are 2 feats, Dragon Friend and Dragon Thrall, which are basically friendship feats for good dragons and evil dragons, respectively. This one is the good dragon one.
Yeah.
And they still have clauses in case you're evil, I guess. I'm not going to think about it too hard. But yeah.
Are there clauses in case you're evil?
Huh? Yes, there's it specifically is you get the glory domain if you're good, and you get the dominion domain if you're evil. Or if you're neutral,
it's a choose one if you're neutral.
Yeah. Which is the only reason why I think that part is listed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other notable things about this, Foster Dragon, you literally get this prestige class varies wildly in power level. That is a Wormling Dragon follower. At later levels, they can summon Adult Dragon follower. What type of dragon can you... What type of dragon?
Dragon.
Pick? It can be white. Or, well, I think it has to be... It might have to be metallic. In any case, it could be like copper, or it could be gold.
Gold.
Which of these is the right answer?
I don't know. It depends. How often do you want your DM to actually let you use this?
I think Blue Eyes
it's a
Pig
Wormling.
Tribe.
It's not. It's a Wormling, and you're at least level, I think, 10. So
the Wormling's not the problem.
No, you're 15 at that point because the Summon Dragon is the 10th level power.
That's true.
So it's not the worst thing in the world when it comes to that. Dragon Kith. Dragon servants that gain abilities from dragons, including the ability to, once per day, do a small amount of extra damage declared before they attack. Yes, this ability, Mighty Attack, you get to, once per day, do a d6 extra damage that you declare before you make that attack. Goes all the way up to 3d6.
Woo.
Why did they write this?
We make trap options on purpose.
Why?
Because it's funny.
The sheer thrill?
The thing is, they designed the rest of the class too. So, I don't know. The powers itself are actually tied to the dragon patron, so that's interesting at least. It does at least have that role-playing design to it, where you literally have a direct patron, but at the same time... yes, by the way, if they die, you lose all special abilities granted by the prestige class, but that's more a dick move on the DM's part, quite frankly.
I mean, I presume if you're gonna do that as a DM, you do it as a specific story beat, and then finding a new patron to be part of the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I could see an interesting thing of you're either at the wind down of a fight you're currently in, or just complete the fight, and it's oh, my powers are gone. This isn't good.
Yeah.
What did I miss? We need to go figure out what's going on. And use it as an interesting story beat, but not as a general
Yeah.
Definitely would be something you'd want to plan for.
Yeah. Not just do at random to tickle the player for reasons.
Yeah.
Alright. Dragon Rider. You ride dragons. Dragon not included.
Correct. You have to befriend a dragon some other way. You'll probably want a high charisma score and
and that dragon leadership feat from earlier.
It's only a 5-level prestige class, so
Yeah, it's only a 5-level prestige class, and okay, when do I stop taking this class? Like, I think first level. Uh,
Dragonflies.
yeah, I think first level. Mostly just be immune to the frightened presence of the
yeah,
dragon.
the presence of your own dragon.
All right, so anyway, he's dragon
Obviously,
slay.
the answer is just make mechanical dragons.
Yep.
And you make a Saturday morning cartoon based off it.
Here we have
Dragonfly
a
dragons.
Yep. Here we have a one level class for high level casters that makes them immune to fear.
Does have aura courage. It's the first level thing.
Yep.
Also, just get class level to damage against dragons.
Does get class level dragons against damage. It's still not good. Even in a campaign that focuses on dragons, that's still kind of on the iffy side. Also, for some reason, well, no, it's a prestige class that is half built around being a caster, but again, just has half progression, so it's not great.
Yeah,
in
it'd
that
be like
respect.
if you want to be a very dragon fighting focused martial cleric, you could give up a couple spell levels to drop into this, but it's very niche.
Yeah. Like, the first level is fine because you don't lose anything for it.
You don't lose anything. You just get you get aura of courage, which
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
There's far worse things you could do a 1-level dip for.
Yeah.
And you don't lose spell casting for the first level, so yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and it's not the worst feat tax in the world. Dodge is not a terrible feat, nor is Iron Will.
Yep.
Look, it's fine if it's an actual dragon and not a person you met at the bus stop in a dragon suit.
Yep. At
Bards.
which point you should be worried. Yep, Dragons on Lyris.
Things besides bards can get in, but
Yeah.
because you just need the dragons.
It gets armed bardic music-like abilities with various effects, including +4 our elbows to strength, we all fly now, suggestion on thing, and questionable fear and bad healing. To go over all of those songs. Easily probably the most notable one is the Song of Flight, because, we all fly.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yep. Dragon Stalker. Really specialized rogue.
I'm sorry, I pictured something
Yeah.
entirely different when you said that.
Dragon
I
Stalker,
sent
please
you
give
my
me my
horde
number.
pick. Answer me.
Here you get sneak attack versus dragons.
You get 2d6 for every time it goes up sneak attack against dragons.
That's nice.
And if you know you're fighting dragons, full BAB with basically full rogue sneak attack in 10 levels.
Yeah. Big issue
It's
being
one of those it's one of those ones similar to like the Fiend Slayer, where it's like if you know you're fighting this and that's the core of your campaign, this is perfectly fine. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's probably even worse than Fiend Slayer in the sense that, okay, evil outsiders fill basically every class of enemy with not much issue.
Correct. You will basically always be able to fight like dragons. If you're fighting them, tend to be big capstone enemies. Evil outsiders can easily be the core of things you're fighting in the campaign.
Yeah. They could be everything from the grunt level troops as Dretches to the big bad evil thing as like a Balor.
Yep.
Whereas the dragon is the big bad evil thing. Pretty much, period.
Pretty much.
Horde
That or
Sealer.
you're running through the tundra declaring war on whites.
Yep. This is a really specialized non-combat class, because God, do I not want to actually take this into combat, but it is kind of funny for, it is very much what it says on the tin.
Look at all that trap sense and specifically hide from dragon.
Yeah. The spell list
ability to
is...
cast those dragons.
Yeah, the spell list actually does a decent job of what's supposed to do, so I can't actually give it that much credit. Literally has hide from dragons and freedom of movement on it as well. In addition to being able to just cast hide from dragons anyways. Which is a spell...
Treasure dowsing is just bad.
Yeah, it is. Deep Pockets is funny. As shit, though. Once per day, you just turn any bag into a bag of holding. That's
cute.
Yeah. Like, it's not a good prestige class, but I can respect it because it at least does the thing it does the thing it's supposed to do, which is steal from a dragon. Let's see. Initiate of the Draconic Mysteries. Monkish prestige class that is specifically bad for monks. Okay, evasion is like a level 2 ability on monks. By level 4, half of Claws of the Dragon gives you makes your unarmed attacks into magical weapons, or overcome damage reduction with their magical weapons. They get that level 4 as a monk.
Yeah.
You could deal slashing damage with it, I guess, so there's at least that, but... So like 1.5 the class features in the first 2 levels are actually like redundant with monk.
Not intended as a monk class.
No, it's not intended as a monk class, obviously. It's also intended to be bad as far as I can tell, but...
We make trap options on purpose.
Yeah.
We trained it wrong. That's a joke.
You can also tell it's not supposed to be a monk class because Frightful Presence is based on charisma, and they wouldn't be stupid enough to add charisma as well to a stat that a monk wants.
Would they, though?
No. I wish I would. The Platinum Knight. It's another Bahamut-themed anti-evil dragon class.
Yeah.
A dozen.
I mean, it makes sense in both.
Evil dragon.
Yeah, it makes sense in both the books it's in total fairness, and I do kind of applaud them for not just repeating the one from Exalted Deeds.
Mm-hmm.
Though realistically, that's probably because they weren't talking to each other, the person writing that book and the person writing this book.
Yeah, they were released.
Okay, we need to check and see if they're the same authors now.
All right, let's see. I would not be surprised if Draconomicon was someone's pet project, though.
It definitely feels like a labor of love.
Yeah. I do not have Exalted Deeds on hand. Second. File. Recent files.
James Wyatt, Darren Drader, and Christopher Perkins.
That was Exalted Deeds?
Yep.
Andy Collins, Skip Williams, and James Wyatt for Draconomicon.
Okay, so James Wyatt's on both, though.
One common.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just going to be funny if it was all 3.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
the entire authors was just the same group.
But yeah, unlike the this one is a bit different in the sense that it is meant to be a prestige class for Paladin, pretty directly looking at it. And Talon of Tiamat, the opposite version of it, basically. Evil servant that gains dragon themed abilities. All right,
those are flavorful things that just make sense to be in.
Yeah. And they don't class feature wise, they're not the worst in the world either. So, though granted, a Talon of Tiamat is borderline A. Why isn't this just in the monster section as a template or something?
Pretty much. It's another one of those. It's just another one of those. This is basically a monster.
Yeah.
Which they have to put them somewhere. They just don't make a separate prestige class intended for NPCs section.
Which again would just work better as a template, anyways. Dragons in the party. Yeah, just basic rules of like, hey, somebody wants to run a dragon. Here's some ideas. Here's stuff. Dragons as a mount. Actual dragons as player characters.
Tell them no.
No, it's usually fine because as you can see, the ECLs for dragons are not insignificant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just go with, I think Copper is the... Yeah, so if you're running, like, the youngest Copper Dragon, it's still going to be a 7th level character. And it's fine. Like, a Wormling Copper is not,
disruptive.
Yeah, all that disruptive or anything amazing. Yeah, it has, if we just rolled up stats, a +2 con... Int, wisdom, and charisma. And 5 levels of the dragon hit dice, which or the dragon racial. 5 dragon racial hit dice.
Yeah, 5d12.
Yeah, which is it'll have 5d12. It has good attacks. It has all good saves, but it doesn't have any class features. And then from there, you basically just put class levels on it, which is you're not going to run into anything that's amazingly broken doing this. The only awkward issue is when it starts aging up in categories if the campaign takes place over long periods of time. Let's see. Also, other true dragons, because those do exist. And we'll go over quite a few of them in the monster section.
Da-da-da-da.
Alright, so starting with the Dracolich. So yeah, one of the other methods of immortality, other than that one prestige class, is you can just become a Lich.
Yep. Lich, but you're a dragon.
Yep, Lich, but you're a dragon. So we have special Lich rules for Lich Dragon. Draconic Creature Template, which is just making something more inherently draconic.
Yep.
Not to be confused with Half Dragon.
Correct. Because that.
Dragonkin. Another class that could technically be a player character, except, let's see, what was the base racial hit dice on this thing? 7. That's level 9 character. That's not awful for 2 level adjustment. It's another option, basically, for melee beater.
Yeah. Has decent stats.
Yeah.
Bonuses, no penalty.
Flies, inherently, which is nice.
+7 natural armor. Not terrible.
Yeah. No, it's actually a solid option. Fairy dragons. Always chaotic good. Except it's a fairy.
Yep.
Not really, but yeah.
It's a dragon, because dragon type is... In the great hierarchy, dragon beats.
Alright, Fang Dragon. And the first of the true dragons in this book. Yeah, chaotic neutral, true dragon, has no breath weapon, hunts for meat, very good at melee, even for a dragon. Shiv, you have anything to say on this one?
They're fun. They're fun alternate beaters than white dragons.
Yeah.
That's like if you want to throw a dragon at the party to be here's a scary thing you're gonna fight. They're not overly intelligent. So they work well as just throwing a beater dragon if you want to throw a beater dragon.
Yeah.
They're melee, they're like claws, and their natural weapons tend to be better than other dragons the same age.
Yeah. And since they are actually melee focused, they are a lot less
Yeah, but they don't have breath weapons, so you don't have to worry about like wiping a party with a single attack.
Yeah. Also less spells to keep track of because they just don't get that many.
Yeah. Great Worm only at 15th caster level.
Ghostly dragons. In other words, the ghost a ghost template for dragons that doesn't like completely tank their hit dice.
Yep.
Golems constructed from dragon parts, because why not? Half dragon.
Half dragon template again, but with a bunch of other dragons attached.
Yep. Including all the gem dragons and the dragons that are new in this book. And also the dragons that were in Oriental Adventures. And, of course, more of the true dragons new in this book, the Planner Dragons. Which is exactly what it sounds like. They are dragons from other planes. Which I'll also try and give descriptions of as we go along, because I didn't exactly do all of them when we were in the DM's guide. So, the Battle Dragon heralds from the heroic domains of Ysgard, which it's fucking Asgard. It is just fucking Asgard.
Yeah.
Battle dragons, what it says on the tin.
Exactly. This is Marvel's Thor the Dragon with a sonic breath weapon. Often serves as mounts. Chaos Dragon. They hail from Limbo, fucking obviously. All of them have actual different scale patterns and markings, so this isn't exactly... No two of them look alike. They seek to tear down civilizations and structured societies. They can be good, neutral, or evil, but none of them are trustworthy. Ethereal dragons. They're from the ethereal plane. Neutral dragons that spy on you from the astral plane. Ethereal Dragon is watching you masturbate.
Who will?
They're also like pacifist, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
They don't like to fight.
No, not terribly. Yeah, most escape over battle, heading to the ethereal plane or material plane to avoid conflict. Yeah. Howling Dragon. Okay, these are from the windswept depths of Pandemonium, the chaotic, neutral, chaotic evil plane. It basically sits between them.
That's just a rat with a half dragon template.
Hey! You do not
Consider-
insult rat.
Considering
All
the plane,
strung out on drugs.
yeah. Considering the plane he comes from, yeah, you'd look like that too if you lived in Pandemonium. It's a plane that consists of underground tunnels where there's always wind and it is always making noise, and the intensity changes at random. It's a lower plane. It sucks by default. They're either chaotic evil or chaotic neutral, sticking with their plane. They are insane schemers that dwell underground and eat anything, living, undead, constructs. Don't care. Oceanus dragons. Dragons of the upper plane. Basically, the river Oceanus runs through all the upper planes, much akin to the river Styx, which we'll get to later. Neutral good dragons, they protect the river Oceanus. That yeah. Pretty straightforward. Pyroclastic dragons. Okay, they are from Gehenna. The neutral evil, lawful evil plane is a plane of volcanoes floating in the void that are hundreds of thousands of miles in all directions tall. There are no natural level surfaces on the plane with a minimum tilt of 45 degrees. All places carved flat will have a tendency to break apart and become angled again. Whoever designed this loves to be an asshole. As is predictable, they're lawful evil or lawful neutral themselves. Flaming rock.
The breath weapon consists of like burning ash and a disintegration beam.
Yeah. They are flaming rock natives, or flaming rock native to a, yeah, they are flaming rock themselves, native to very much a suck plane, and they love magma. They are exactly what you think they would be. If you want the silly elemental dragon peering out of lava at the party, i.e. something to throw at them from a lava pool, then note that aside from the fact the party should be dead, but screw it, everything is movie lava.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
it's worth noting their disintegration beam breath weapon is a save or die effect.
Yeah, yes it is. It is just straight
You
up
just
a save or
fail,
die
you
effect.
turn
It's
to
not
ash.
even death. It's not even damage. Radiant dragons. They're from Celestia. Again, the plane of ponies.
Yep.
Lawful good. Trying out to be gold. Trying to out dragging gold dragons. Basically.
They're being good, but they're being really obnoxious about it.
Rust dragon. Because fuck your equipment. They are from
Yep.
They are from the infernal battlefield of Acheron, a lawful evil, lawful neutral plane. It is a bunch of metal cubes where there is just constant battle between forces for nothing, basically. But yeah, it is exactly what you think. What if Rust Monster, but dragon with rust breath?
Uh-huh.
I
Oh,
hope
a
your
rust
equipment isn't
breath,
metal.
a rusting bite, and when you're worm or higher, if your weapon's not a +5 enhancement bonus, it just rusts if you.
Yep.
Yeah. So, designer of this dragon, who hurt you?
Someone with weapons, apparently.
I was gonna say.
And that's-
I was born as a rust monster, but people didn't take me seriously.
What form will my vengeance take? And someone threw a broadsword through his office window? Of course. Criminals are an armed lot.
Oh, this is true, technically. Styx dragon. The dragon of the lower Styx in the lower planes. Neutral evil, haunts River Styx, and is immune to its effects. And I really do not pay that the River Styx. This is a bad idea.
I know, I saw that dragon doing it. He seemed fine.
If you saw this dragon, just run.
A cone of stupefying gas that does 1 point of intelligence damage per age category.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not going to leave you very intelligent very long.
Which I guess makes sense if it chills in the river Styx. So.
Yeah. Tartaran Dragon. Dwells in Carcerai. It's the neutral evil, chaotic evil prison plane consisting of Mario Galaxy orbs separated by gulfs of air.
Okay.
Strangely enough, probably one of the least unpleasant planes, other than the fact that it's a prison and also everything in there probably wants you to die, but that's a different matter entirely. It is both warden and prisoner. They exist in a variety of places, but love duplicating the jailhouse atmosphere of the on the material plane if they ever get there, because Carcerai is very much a prison.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we're out of planar dragons, shadow dragons. Chaotic, evil, devious assholes with ties to the plane of shadow, if that's not obvious enough. Also on this page, skeletal dragons, because, again, skeletal template, but dragon.
Yep.
Also, the arachnophobes, because his wings look like spiders.
Hey, what if dragons were vampire?
Again, specialized template for vampirizing dragons, because I don't know, it's amusing.
But what vampire walked up to a dragon and Guys, you're gonna never guess what Dave did for his pledge. Oh, the master vampires are either gonna love him or is gonna kick his ass for pissing off a dragon.
Well, depends what happens after they survive the dragon, if they survive the dragon.
Let's say you drained all his blood, right? You didn't, turn him into a vampire like us. Dave. Dave. There's a right answer and a wrong answer here, Dave.
I should go do that.
No. You should stay. You should stay, Dave, and you should explain some things. Like, did you make the dragon a vampire?
Technically, nature made the dragon a vampire after I failed to drain all its blood.
And you know what the dragon's about to make us? A crater.
Okay.
Zombie template.
Yep,
Dragons.
zombie template for dragons.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Alright, sample dragons. This chapter is basically a bunch of, examples of I think at least 3 age categories for every dragon. We don't, not really anything mechanically worth going over. However, because it's this book,
That's awesome.
Yeah, the artwork is awesome, so let's just go over this, because this artwork is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's good examples of both the dragons at different age categories and, their layers. And,
Poor 4-scale guy getting his shield melted.
Yep.
Dude, will you stop drooling on my shield, please?
Blue dragons. Nice example of one of their layers as well.
That wormling is adorable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
A lot of the wormlings are just plain adorable.
Well, I like that. The blue dragons especially have an oversized head generally, and just translate really well on the wormling body.
Yeah.
I would not want to hunt it in Monster Hunter.
I would though. Coat.
To reach their destination.
I need a good thunder weapon.
Okay, I would feel bad about it, but I'd still kill it for my coat. Looking at you, Dodogama. Anyway,
dragon skin armor has to come from somewhere.
Yep. Bronze. Nice island, actually.
Yeah.
Underwater entry.
Yep. Copper.
Here's the small wormling does look like a Land from the Lost puppet.
I do like the main entry concealed a stupid or a stupid maze. Oh yeah, there's also this other escape tunnel. You don't have to go through this.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite part is looking at this. That is absolutely something you'd find on a placemat at a diner. For the kids.
Gold dragon. Typical good ordering lair. Hey, we can actually build things with stone and technology, right? Stop dwelling in holes in the fucking ground, guys.
You fucking primitives.
It's also under the ocean. So
Yep. A glass observation room.
That is
Yeah.
glass.
That's
Oh my
fucking
he
awesome.
god.
he made a sweet observation room for his undersea base. Do you have a problem with this?
He would
Not
love
at
my
all.
tunnel.
Also, notably, this is probably like it's at most giant size or human size outright because dragons take into account the fact they do change size significantly as they age, but they can just shapeshift anyway, so it's easier to like be in here as a human.
He would absolutely love my tunnel. In Minecraft.
Get all up in your tunnel.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I realized and threw
Oh
on
shit!
the
A
in
waterfall
Minecraft.
cave.
Yep, a waterfall cave.
No, Green
No.
Dragon also made an actual thing.
I was
Yep.
gonna say, you realize we never actually went into that waterfall cave, and I'm upset by it.
That's fine. Red dragon.
There's a hole in the ground.
Yep. Let's see. False chamber, ledge entrance. Da-da-da.
Hurt.
Silver dragon. Ah! Entertaining area, vault room, some clinics,
Yep.
study library, storage, shrine room.
I do like that the Silver Dragon has all like built out, clearly, you know, uh, like constructed rooms and halls, and the sleeping chamber is just a cave.
Yeah.
It's a natural cave.
It's the simple things.
So the more amusing part of this is this could just be a place like a refuge that people know about and don't even realize it's a silver dragon lair.
Yeah, because like the sleeping chambers could easily be like a secret wall door off the hallway there,
Yeah.
and Dragon's just like, I'm gonna go to sleep. I want to be a dragon. Do it.
Yeah.
Slip out
Yeah.
through, turn into dragon, go to sleep, wake back up. Here's just our secret little place. Like obviously this one's a bit weird because both at least one of the entries is a aerial entry only, but
Yeah.
Yep.
like you could definitely have places like you could 100% see things like not necessarily the secret underwater base the Gold Dragon had, but Gold Dragon's building like temple complexes or something is out somewhere and be like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of clerics here and it's perfectly normal and that guy's been here for a really long time.
Yeah. And granted, they'll usually take the form of like an elf, so it's not even that suspicious.
Yeah.
And white dragons. Pretty simple, but you know, that's makes sense as for what they are.
Yeah.
And that one's actually a floating iceberg, which is cool.
Yes. But yeah. And that's Draconomicon. Probably like one of the books that holds up the most out of 3.5 simply because you can ignore all the 3.5 stuff and you still have a really large amount of this book that is just
Usable. Yeah.
Yeah. Not just
fun.
quite usable and fairly entertaining. Again, like the opening section that is just Dragon Anatomy, that's like of questionable use in a role playing game, but it fucking rocks. Like makes the book
It's a fun thing to have as opposed to be like, oh, it's a dragon. Well, hold on, I have a bunch of details about dragons. You know,
Yeah.
here's how they act.
because
Go for it.
oh yeah. It's one thing that game designers kind of tend to overlook in the sense that you're not just writing something that is meant to be used in a role-playing game and has both mechanical and flavor and advice in it. You are writing a book, and the more entertaining the book is to read, the better and more valuable that book is in general. And this book actually does that pretty well, while still actually conveying all the information it wants to convey.
Yeah.
Well, also, a lot of the books that we've covered so far, like the base stuff and some of the little expansions, have all been focused on the mechanical side of thing and the numbers side, which is important to D&D. It's kind of the spine of it, but the rest of the organs around the spine are like the role-playing part. 'Cause there is a DM like trying to make a setting and characters and plot hooks and stuff like that. And this is the first book that we've looked at in the series that is just like, okay, here's the book for that part of the job. Here's some dragons you can put in. Here's all the cool things that dragons do. You want some weird rat dragons from the chaos dimension where the wind is maddening? Here's fucking chaos rat dragon.
Yeah, and even when we get to some of the mechanical stuff, like the entire mechanical dragon section almost isn't. It's like, here's the dragon prestige classes. Do they do things? Yeah, technically. Are we ever going to use these in campaign? Oh, almost fucking certainly not.
Yeah.
But
I speaking as someone who has DM'd a couple of things, I would absolutely like put them in as like groups or NPCs and be like, oh yeah, there's like these guys going around.
yeah, but in that respect, you don't actually need any of the mechanical aspect of those.
Oh yeah, yeah,
classes.
yeah.
They are just there for
We'd
flavor.
be hand waving a bunch of mechanics on that one. But
Yeah.
even in 2024 D&D, if I ever ran a campaign and I was doing the thing around dragons, I could see like making a character whose entire thing was I have devoted my life to, you know, the hoarding or to the stealing of dragon hordes and getting away with it. You know, turning my bags into bags of holding at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Shit like that, and then adapt them to other rule sets.
Yeah. And it is a bit late for me to say this, but I might as well say this part as well. A lot of the fluff and flavor of 3.5 is very much cribbing on and copying the homework of second edition. Second edition has a great deal written on a lot of things because there's just that much of second edition AD&D. But nonetheless, as just even if this book, I can't guarantee that that's the case with this book, but even if it is just a collection of a lot of the stuff, the artwork is certainly not. The artwork is entirely Wizards of the Coast. And B, it's still just collected into one place and fairly solid. And also, the writing is not copy and paste from previous editions. It is their own. It is their own words, and it is presented well.
Yeah.
But that is a true caveat of a lot of the fluff and flavor of 3 and 3.5, and there's nothing wrong with that. That it's a continuation of D&D of sorts. But yeah, that is Draconomicon, and that will be all for this week. So join us on Sunday when we continue the Super Robots Wars, Anine.
Yep.
Join us on Monday for more Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Soul Link, Randomizer. Somehow we're still on the 4th seed in spite constant deaths.
And maybe now that I've had a bunch of deaths and Hunter's had a bunch of deaths, maybe next session we can not have deaths.
Hopefully.
It would be nice.
Narrator's note: there were in fact a bunch of deaths.
Fuck you, narrator.
I was gonna say, don't you put that juju on us.
Omnipresence.
And join us back
Beyond
here
time
next
and
week. Yeah, and join us back here next week where we're okay. I want to go through more than 2 books a week, but we sure shit ain't doing that next week because we have Unearthed Arcana, and the next book is Expanded Psionics Handbook. So
Yeah.
Oh boy.
yeah, but yeah. Till then, I'm Vincent,
I've been the
Shiv.
Krampus.
Doesn't crap us. I've been Shiv.
I've been under green.
and I'm Vincent. And remember, everyone, hindsight's 20/20, especially Dragon hindsight.